Yes, yes, y'all, to the beat, y'all. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get this party started, right? I'm going to get it started quickly, right? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's the security guard with the GOAT TV. I'm here at 345 Park Avenue, the location and the headquarters of the NFL building, also the headquarters of the Blackstone Investment Corporation, all headquartered in this building along with other large corporations and other businesses here in the New York area. So I am here today, we're talking about the shooting that happened right here at this location on July 28th at 6:30 p.m. So I was gonna go live here at 6:30 at the exact time that the shooting happened, but I wanna give you guys and I want to give you an inside look of what happened down here. Now, there are still a heavy law enforcement present here. There is also some local media here, and I'll turn the camera around shortly. But there's a bunch of onlookers, and as you see here, there's a makeshift memorial. People are coming down. They're taking videos, they're taking footage, they're taking selfies of the building where many lost their lives here on July 28th due to the mass shooting by Shane Tamura, which Mr. Tamura, for you all, Tamura, some call him Tamura, some Tamura, depending on how you say it. For you guys who don't know, this happened on the 28th of this month. Mr. Tamura parked here on Park Avenue. We're at 51st Street and Park Avenue. He drove up here, double parked in front of the building where there is a small army of NYPD officers. Here it's, I believe it's called the Critical Response or the Strategic Response Patrol Unit. I believe that's the name of it, but those are the people who are responsible for like mass protests, demonstrations, parades, and anytime anything gets out of hand, this is going to be the group that shows up here. But I'm here now, again, there's a remnant of police officers out here, memorials, makeshift memorial, people walking past, asking questions about what happened out here 2 days ago on July 28th. And from what we know, Mr. Shane Tamura parked his BMW. I'm not sure if it was his BMW, a family-owned vehicle, but he parked his double parked his vehicle right here. This is Park Avenue right here. There's only 2 lanes of traffic. Well, it's 3 lanes. One is a turning lane, and occasionally it turns into 2 lanes, 1 to 2 lanes of traffic. But he double parked his vehicle right here because he knew he wasn't coming back out. He walked up these stairs here, and I'm going to turn the camera around in a minute so that you can see it. But he walked up these stairs here and across this platform here, and he walked into 345 Park Avenue, which is again the home of the NFL headquarters. It's the NFL headquarters. It's where Blackstone is, the investment firm Blackstone. And when he walked into that, what's up, brother? When he walked into that building, he knew that he wasn't coming out. He had his mind set on what he was going to do. He was armed to the teeth with the M4 rifle with multiple magazines on him and additional ammunition in the car. So he wasn't worried about the double parking ticket that he possibly could have got from NYPD, the traffic control people here. He wasn't worried about none of that because he came in here on a mission to take care of business, and he never planned on coming back out. So I'm going to turn the camera around here for you guys for a minute, and then we'll get back into the story. The story is sensational in itself, but we also have to, when we're talking about the story, we want to cover it from a mass shooting perspective. We also want to cover this story from a concealed carry perspective. We've heard people talk about mental health and how that played a part in it, and how was this man able to get a gun? How was he able to travel across the country? How did he know about this location, and why did he come here to this location to carry out the heinous crime, the awful atrocity that he did? So let me just turn the camera around for you, and I can show you what's out here now. NYPD officers are out here heavy. We have some media cars, some media trucks there, but you see over there, NYP is heavy here. They're all around the building here at 345. At 345 Park Avenue, here's the Blackstone building. You see more NYPD officers over here. They're just all encamped out in front of the building. And here you see the memorial. People, this is one, I'm just a little bit upset that it rained, because when I first got here, there was a flyer out here for Alan ETNA. Here it is. The rain has damaged it, but it's a picture of Mr. ETNA memorial that somebody put out here, a picture of him. This is a security guard who lost his life in this building. And then, again, it's just a whole host of flowers and arrangements that the people, again, have come out here and put out here to show their support and their sorrow for this case, for this incident. And what happened is, see another guy just coming down. People are asking questions, tourists. They want to know what happened out here in front of 345, inside of 345 Park Avenue. Again, more people bringing flowers. This has just been a nonstop parade of people down here, and crime scene is still inside of the building. Again, more NYPD officers. I don't want to violate and get kicked off of the property, but you see a host of NYPD officers here making sure that the building is secure while crime scene does their investigation. They're here. NYPD cars are lined all for blocks all around here. So I must have encountered at least a couple of, let's say a couple of dozen of police officers. I'm going to zoom in on the sign here at 345 Park. It's just above the fence line there, so you guys can see this is the NFL building. This is where the terrible, and I do mean terrible, atrocity happened. So from my understanding, this is 51st Street and Park Avenue. Mr. Tamura, he pulled up his vehicle here just about right where those NYPD officers are parked. He got out of his car. He walked up these stairs and across this platform, and he walked into this building. And when he got into the building, he unleashed terror on the occupants inside. The first person that was hit was a 3-year officer, a father of 2, a 2.5, because his wife is 8 months pregnant with their third child, who will never get to see their father, never get to know who their father, well, they'll know who he was, but they will never get to experience the good man, the professional, the law enforcement, the protector, the officer that Officer Didarul Islam was. When I talk to people out here, I talk to other law enforcement officers, many of them who wish not to be on tape, and there's a process to be on video footage from your police department, whatever police department you're from, because you have to get approval from what's called the PIO office or the Public Information Office to give statements. But when I talked to them off record, so many people who were familiar with Officer Islam, so many officers, so much outpouring. I'm talking to officers with tears in their eyes and, just expressing what kind of a great officer he was. And then when you hear the reports from his community where he lived, the community where he served, not just the officers that he worked with, just a great outpouring of who he was as a person outside of the uniform. Which this is a tragic event, but he wasn't the only person who lost his life here. There were a lot of people who lost their lives there, 5 in total, including the shooter. So when the shooter walked in, he parked his car out here outside of 345 Park Avenue, again, which is the headquarters of Blackstone. If you can see the sign back there, Blackstone, a mega huge investment company. The NFL headquarters, who does not have that sign here, and for good reason. This guy, what's his name? Tamura, Jason Tamura. He came here. When he came here, he looked up the NFL office. His grief, his beef with the NFL was that they're not doing enough about CTE, which is the concussion protocol. He said that they weren't doing enough about CTE, and that he has CTE. And when he unallowed himself here inside of this building on the 33rd floor, he had a letter on himself, he had letters in his vehicle. He also left letters at his home, letters that explained that he wanted to have his brain studied for CTE. Now, he's blaming the NFL, but I have to tell you guys this, those of you who don't know, this young man never played a down in the NFL. Not a down of football in the NFL, not a yard of football, never caught a pass, threw a pass, took a sack, made a block, nothing. He's never even been on the NFL field to my knowledge. His career in football ended with his high school career, from what I understand. But CTE is a big thing. Junior Seau, who was a longtime San Diego Charger, who moved over to the New England Patriots, he committed suicide. And he also said in his letter, his departure note, that he wanted his brain studied for CTE and the effects of CTE. So CTE is a real thing. I have a son who played football, who played professional football, who played football at Pop Warner at the age of 5. He played football in high school. He went on to play football in college. And I would see my son get his bell ring, and as a parent, you're just thinking, I want my son outside of that game. But these guys are wired a different kind of way. They are wired just like I'm wired to do security. These football players are wired to do security. This is all they know. My son right now is still pursuing a professional career in football. And when there is so much pressure on athletes to perform in the NFL, as that they don't want to be hurt, because being hurt is a sign of being soft. And if you come off the field and you can't play, they'll just replace you with someone else who can. And these guys know, I lost Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. Once you come off of the field, there's a chance that you will never get your job back in the NFL. So these guys don't want to come off the field. They play through injuries. They play through concussions, and not knowing the full-time effects, of what these concussions can do. I feel for the people here at this building who lost their lives based on this man who had a vendetta against the NFL for CTE. He had a vendetta against the NFL from CTE, and so much that he drove from Las Vegas, packed up a car full of ammo, a high-powered M4 rifle, loaded it up with ammunition, drove here on 345 Park Avenue into the headquarters of the NFL in the Blackstone. And he walked up these stairs and across that platform, right over there where those NYPD officers are standing in the backdrop, walked in those doors, and he released terror on anybody and everybody in sight. Unfortunately, the first person that he came in contact with was Officer Didarul Islam, doing his job, moonlighting as a off-duty officer in this building, trying to provide for his family, trying to provide for his future, and trying to make do in a tough economy that I must say that we have right now, because we're all fighting through the tough economy. And as you have actors like this, one of the things that where people are talking about is how safe are the executives that run these corporations? How safe are the people who run the country? How safe are the politicians? How safe are the medical executives, or the people who run Big Pharma, the people who run the hospitals, the people who make the medicines, those people at Merck and the other people who make the medicines that are oftentimes more than people can afford to pay for. And so now we have American citizens. It's not terrorism from international interests. It's domestic terrorism happening right here on our own soil with our own people who seem to be fed up with life, who seem to be fed up with the economy, who seem to be fed up with the government, who seem to be fed up with our own President Donald Trump, who's engulfed in a huge scandal right now, where many people are saying conspiracy theory, where many people are just being realistic and saying that this is a cover-up, and that Donald Trump needs to be held accountable, that the United States government needs to be held accountable, that Pam Bondi needs to be held accountable, that Kash Patel needs to be held accountable, that and that all of the people, Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, then turned and pointed to be the Deputy United States Attorney General, who goes to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, And by the way, he goes to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, not by himself, but along with Ghislaine Maxwell's personal attorney, her defense attorney, who's representing her. Now, what a lot of people didn't know that the two attorneys are friends. They even did a podcast episode not too long ago. I'm sure that when they did that podcast episode, that they didn't know it was going to come back and bite them, because the internet never dies. The internet never dies. And people went right up and pulled that podcast up where the two are buddy laughing with each other, having a great conversation, with Blanche calling Ghislaine Maxwell attorney a great attorney. And not only did he call him that, he told him that he considered him a friend. So when these guys go to have this conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell, these two get together to have this conversation about Ghislaine Maxwell. It's not somebody representing the United States and a person representing a defendant. What we have are two friends who have got together, which seems to many Americans like to concoct a story to get our current president off the record and out of trouble. But I don't think this is something that you can dodge. I just don't think this is something that you can dodge. And if the American government continues to operate like this, if corporate America continues to operate like this, if the big pharma continues to operate like this, we're going to see more incidents like this. Now, granted, I was moved by this because when this news broke yesterday, I had to tell you, I'm here downtown Manhattan, Midtown, Lower Manhattan, Chelsea, Tribeca. I'm down here all the time. My office is in DC. I do a lot of business right here in this city. So when I heard the address 345 Park, my alarm bell started going off, and a sense of panic set in for me. Because when I came here, because when I heard the news, I have friends that work in that building. I have friends who are the heads of security of the NFL who work in this building. People who I patrolled the mean streets of Washington, D.C. as police officers. Kathy Lanier, who became the head of security, whose office is in this building. She's the head of security in the NFL. My friend Ralph Ennis, and when I heard it, I immediately started texting. Hey, I heard what's going on. Are you guys okay? Ralph texts back, says, I'm fine, I'm in the building, I'm okay. But there was an NFL employee that was shot. There was a Blackstone employee that was killed. And the names are Didarul Islam, the NYPD officer, Alan, depending on how you pronounce it, ETNA, who was a security guard, unarmed security guard, father, just like Didarul was a father. They call Alan, they call him Big Al or Al. He's worked in this building, also a security guard of 2 or 3 years, unarmed. When this man pulled his BMW up here on Park Avenue, got out, walked across this platform, armed with an M4 rifle, with impunity, got inside of this building and started firing. The first person he killed was Didarul Islam, a decorated, loyal father and police officer. And I'm saddened by that, having a career in law enforcement, having a career in security. I'm also the next person that he killed that he shot was a woman that was in the lobby. They just said he started spraying indiscriminately in this lobby, shooting whoever was in sight. Big Al, the security guard, saw what was going on. He ducked me for cover. The assassin missed him. But as he got to, excuse me. But as he got to the elevator bank, he saw another glimpse of Al. And he raised his rifle and he took aim and he fired those rounds from that M4 rifle piercing through Officer Etienne's flesh. And as an unarmed security guard, I'm certain that he didn't have armored or bulletproof vest or body armor on, and he had stood no chance. Officer Didarul Islam stood no chance. He stood no chance of survival because when that man walked in the door, he already had his eyes on sight what he was going to do. Now, his intentions, from what I understand, was to go to the NFL offices and take out this rampage on them. But before he did that, he had to get through the first line of security, which was Islam and ETN, ETN or ETNA, depending on how you say it and who you ask. But that was the first line of defense, and he had to go through them. And unfortunately, they just were no match for the firepower that he had. And also, if they were prepared and they had forewarning, maybe they would have been better positioned. Maybe they could have took up a more tactical position behind some concealment or cover where they could have laid down return fire. But that wasn't the case here. They had no opportunity to defend themselves or anyone in that building. And once he pierced that first veil of protection, he went through this building, went to the elevator bank, and he thought he was going to the floors. I'm not going to say what floors the NFL is on, but he went through this building, and they have separate elevator banks. He probably would have made it to the NFL floor if he got on the right elevators. But those elevators took him up to the third floor where he met another young lady from the management property of this building, the people who own and manage this building. And he took aim on her, and he unalived her before turning the firearm on himself and unaliving himself. And from all reports, he shot himself in the chest. And on the letter that they found on his person, they said that he wanted his brain studied for CTE, and that he was angered by the NFL for not taking precautionary measures to keep people like him from being injured. But again, he never played for the NFL. So also, who lost their lives here? So I said Officer Islam, Officer ETN. Also, there was Wesley LePaitner, if I'm saying her name right, a mother of two, a wife who worked here, who worked at Blackstone, who worked for this company right here that we see, who worked for Blackstone, was a decorated employee, a loyal employee, showed up early, stayed late. Just so happened she happened to be in that building, in this building at 345 Park on July 28th, when this man walked in and released total terror on the city of New York. And New York is still recovering. You should see the people here. You see the people here that lined up. You see the man with the cross here. You see the people just coming, taking pictures, asking questions. A lot of people are walking and passing, they don't even know that this is the location. But the ones that do, they are in a solemn state of peace or awe or confusion, like what is happening to America. So I'm going to go through here. I had a few questions that look like statements. I want to make sure that I get people's questions answered, because somebody just asked, when did this happen? They didn't even know that it happened. Well, that was Dodge City Kid that happened 2 days ago on July 28th at 6:30 p.m. And for you guys to just tuning in, I'm in front of 345 Park Avenue, the site where the NFL is headquartered, the site where Blackstone is headquartered. A lot of other corporate businesses are headquartered in here. This is the site of the mass shooting on July 28th, where a gunman came in with the M4 rifle, fully loaded, and he went to work in here doing serious damage. In so much, the crime scene was 2 days ago. And though only 4 people well, 5 people, including the shooter, lost their lives, there was also the shooter, which makes the 5th, and there was also another victim who was critically wounded. And I believe that is the victim who works for the NFL, whose information has not been released now. Yeah, see, Keith just said he's just hearing it now. This is not only national news, but this is international news, because at the same time that this happened, just a few hours before in Reno, Nevada, we had another mass shooting where a guy went up to Reno, Nevada armed with a handgun, got out of his vehicle and went to the valet, and where he saw people standing at, he just began to fire on the people who were in the valet area. They said there was blood, there was screaming, there was people dodging for cover. 4 people were were murdered in there, and another 3 people were injured. I may have those numbers transverse, but I would believe it's 4 was murdered, 4 were injured, or 3 were injured, 4, whatever the stats were. But nonetheless, this was a mass shooting just hours before this. And then in Traverse County, Michigan, I believe it is, there was a man who walked into a Walmart with the knife and started stabbing people. He stabbed 11 people before being stopped by one armed citizen and a group of other citizens who saw what was going on and decided to take him into custody. Now, just as the armed concealed carry person drew down on him, the officer showed up at that scene and was able to take that man into custody. He wasn't shot, he wasn't wounded, but they took him into custody. Now he's facing 11 counts of assault with intent to kill or intent to murder in Michigan. And he's also facing charges of terrorism. Now, again, our terrorism is no longer just international terrorists. We have homegrown terrorists right here in our own states and our own city who are disgruntled with corporate America, who are disgruntled with Big Pharma, who are disenchanted with our federal government. And this is the result. And if we continue to stand up for people who are not standing up for the country, when you talk about politics, you talk about all of these people put in the office, this is not because they're doing something great for us. It's because it's a popularity contest. And when people look at President Obama, great, some say great, some say it was horrible. But ultimately, when you like President Obama, you got to say how cool he was or how well-spoken he was. If you talk about Trump, you could say, oh, I like this policy, or I like that he's direct, or whatever. And there's the crime scene search unit. I think they probably wrapped up for today, but they're just pulling off. So what we are getting is not a true, why do we like these people? Why do we support these people? This is the real question that we have to get to, because at the end of the day, the people at the top, and you guys can see it on the news every day, these people are protecting their own best interests. They're protecting their friends. We don't want the Epstein list to come out, but there is an Epstein list. There is an Epstein list, and when I talk about this, I'm gonna come back and talk about this later on tonight. Well, when Todd Blanche, our President Donald Trump's lawyer, when he went down to Florida, Tallahassee, to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell, when her lawyer came out, he was all smiles, he was optimistic. He said that Ghislaine answered every question honestly. That's what he said. And then he said they asked her about at least 100 other people. Well, where did these 100 other people come from? Did they had to ask her about? When we talk about this, we have to understand that there was 330 gigabytes of information on the Epstein case. 330 gigabytes on the Epstein case. And over 1 million pages of documents. 1 million pages of documents. 100,000 documents, that volumes to 1 million pages. And so if there are 100 people, how did they come up with these 100 people? They had to be flipping through the documents and say, oh, here's Bill Clinton, here's Les Wexner, here's Alan Dershowitz, here's all of these people, here's Prince Andrew. They come up with that information. How do they know where to find that? Out through 1 million pages. Or they just, flip through? Oh yeah, where did I see Alan Dershowitz at? Oh, page 9,072. How do you know where to find them at unless you summarize all of these people, all of these names through the 1,000 documents, the 1,000 FBI agents that's scrolling through this stuff? How do you summarize where to find them in these documents? Unless you put them in a list. And that's what's happening. And there's all kind of things to keep that list from coming out. And it's not just protecting Donald Trump. Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former White House strategist, who fell out with Donald Trump, who says he has over 15 hours of videotape of Jeffrey Epstein that he's going to release in a documentary later on next year. He said that Jeffrey Epstein was the key to unpick all the locks to everything. And when he said that, he says, I'm not just talking about people. He said, I'm talking about institutions. And today, yes, you may be mad with Donald Trump. Yes, this guy may be mad with different corporations, or different people who run the corporations, but ultimately, they are citizens who have turned to domestic terrorists, are mad with government, they're mad with corporate America, they're mad with the institutions, they're mad with Big Pharma, and they are taking their rage out on these people who they feel are responsible. Now, and I want to readmit, I just want to reiterate that what happened here in this building, that was a mental health issue. It had nothing to do with NFL. I have a lot of friends who work in this building right here who I was deeply concerned about when this incident happened. So much so that I got in my car and I drove here just to report on this because I felt it was necessary for the American public and people around the world to hear what's going on. The NFL had nothing to do with this, even though this guy blamed him of that. So some of the questions that I've seen surface about why was this guy, there was in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he's from. They say he's from Southern California, but he lived in Las Vegas with his parents. 27-year-old Shane Tamura, Tamura, however you say it. 27 years old, lived with his parents. He also left a letter at his home apologizing to his parents for what he did. And this guy, again, drove all the way across the country to do this. They said that he drove through Colorado. He hit New Jersey on the other side of Newark on the other side of 95. He hit Newark about 4:30. And when he came here, he pulled up right here at 51st and Park Avenue, where I showed you guys earlier. The NYPD officers are still staged, and they're staged all around this building, everywhere. And he pulled up here and he double parked that car and he got out with that M4 and he started firing. And unfortunately, a lot of good people lost their lives that day. So there are lessons to be learned from this incident, and how do we move forward and how do we prepare for what's going on. I'm gonna come back and talk about the mental health component as well. But I wanna say, how do we prepare for this? One of the things that I saw in some of the media footage when they were inside, I don't know if it was from the media, because I'm certain it's still an active crime scene, so the media hasn't been allowed to be inside. Myself being an independent journalist, investigative journalist, all the media that I've encountered today are right here on the corners, the different corners. You'll see the trucks here, trucks there, trucks there. We've all been out here reporting from the outside of the building. But there were some pictures submitted by some of the victims or the people who had to experience this, who were terrorized by this shooter coming into this building here at 345 Park Avenue. These people were terrified. What you see are the pictures where they stack furniture, desks, chairs, all up to the top of the doors where people could not come in, where the shooter could not come in here and attack them from within. And you learn that, a lot of people have learned that in school. In fact, one of the people who took the picture said, "I just remember what they taught us in school." And you can find that on any pretty much government website. That's run, fight, hide. You run first. If there's an open entry to a door, you can get out of the building, get out of the building. If you can run within the building and find what we call shelter in place. That's somewhere that has a solid door. That's somewhere that has concrete walls or metal barriers around you that can protect you from ammunition or fragments coming through that particular place, and that's what you do. Or if you can run just to get out of sight. We have two things that we talk about in law enforcement, security and military. You have concealment, which means you just hide. So if I conceal my face with this hat, my face is concealed, but it offers me no protection other than invisibility. But if the person happens to see past that concealment and see me, I'm vulnerable and can become a victim. Now the other thing is cover. And the cover would be something that's hard, something that's dense. This wall right here, if somebody was shooting, if there was a shooting, there was another side over there, I could get behind that. That would be concealment and cover. And we call it cover because it could actually stop projectiles from coming through. So this is what happened in this building. Unfortunately, inside the building, I believe that the NFL has somewhere with bulletproof doors or something like that inside the building. I had to ask some of my friends who work here. But they do have places that are bulletproof or bullet resistance, because after a while, nothing's bulletproof, but bullet resistance, doors and windows inside of this building. Exactly where they are, we don't know. I don't know. Maybe the employees inside of the building knows, but when somebody's coming in and they're shooting indiscriminately, the last thing you're thinking about is where are the bulletproof doors or windows or whatever. The first thing you're thinking about is getting down, getting low, being hidden, out of sight, out of mind. And that is exactly what Officer Al, Big Al ATN did in this building. He and another lady got out of sight, but when that shooter got to those elevator banks, he happened to see him moving or see him out his peripheral, and he raised that M4 rifle and he started firing, and unfortunately it took their lives. So we'll talk about mental health, and I want to talk about that because Keith, I don't know how to say his name, I'm gonna call him Keith W, said we need more mental health. And that's something that a point that I want to talk about in this particular incident, because mental health came up in the incident and came up with this young man's name who came in here and unleashed terror on this building at 345 Park Avenue. So I'm gonna scroll through here and see some statements and some questions, and then I'm gonna come back and talk about mental health. Hey Raymond from the UK, thank you. I am the wild card, thank you for coming through. Keith, thank you. Why was the security guard unarmed, Betty? Betty asked. Oh, well, the security guard was probably unarmed because they had off-duty, or at least one off-duty officer, NYPD officer in this building at all times to provide that armed protection. Oftentimes, buildings or property managers don't want to pay for armed security. One, because of the liability. Two, because they don't believe that they need it. And three, because of the cost involved with having armed security in the building. So, you know, all of these things are based on a cost-benefit analysis. I'm not sure who did the cost-benefit analysis, but someone did. Someone did the cost-benefit analysis, and they decided that it wasn't worth the money. But as you see, a lot of people don't want to pay, but you pay one way or another. And unfortunately, the way they paid on this day, on Monday, July 28th, they paid with the loss of an NYPD officer's life, security officer's life, Officer Al, Big Al, ETN, with McLean Security. That's who he was working with at the time. We lost his life, and we lost Wesley LePaitner, we lost her life, and another young lady, and when we had the young man who did this, he lost his life, and we had an NFL employee critically injured on this property. So that is the cost of making decisions based on money, based on cost-benefit analysis. We're not taken to where we are in America today. We have to really look at risk. We have to do risk assessments. We have to really look at what's going on. And the people who pay for security, pay for these type of things, they really have to dig deeper into their pockets. But what could have prevented this is depending on where the shooter entered. As again, you see all of this stuff, once upon a time, you could walk up and see straight through this building, but all of that has privacy, some kind of privacy barrier around it so that you can't see in the building, because when I pulled up, NYPD crime scene is still in there investigating this, and it's gonna be a live scene for a while before these people get their building back, or even would want to be in that building, because you have to have a business continuity program. There's damage control, EAP that needs to happen. People are gonna be struggling with the grief that happened in here. Somebody's in their mind and said, well, I just walked through that lobby. If it was 2 seconds before, I just got on the elevator door. You know, and people are not gonna wanna come back to this building, even though the threat is gone. They're still gonna be thinking about long-term security, long-term consequences. They're gonna be thinking about how do they help their employees from all of these corporations, the NFL, Blackstone, and the other people who have offices in this skyrise building, which is far up. I'll show it to you shortly. They're gonna be thinking about how do we help these people cope? How do we help them recover? Some people, honestly, they'll never recover. That's just the truth of the matter. So let me look at some of these questions and statements. I wanna make sure I wanna get everybody. I want to know why the guy was walking around in a broad daylight with a gun and no one called the police. Okay, DCM DM85 asks, how come the guy, the assailant, the guy who did this damage at 345 Park Avenue, who came into the NFL building headquarters, who came into the Blackstone headquarters and came in here and started spraying M4 rounds indiscriminately at whoever he saw before offing himself or unaliving himself, how come he was able to walk around with a firearm? Well, I'm going to turn the camera around so I can just show you guys this. What happened here is that this is 51st and Park Avenue. Park Avenue going this way is a one-way street. It's divided by a barrier in the inside, in the middle of the street. And here, he just pulled up here. And again, NYPD's finest there. He walked into the doors here. By the time he got from where these NYPD officers are all standing, when he got from there to there, just look at the distance. By the time they realized he had a gun, he was already inside of the business, inside of the building, handling the business that he came to do. And so that it's a long distance, it's a good distance, maybe 20, 30 yards from there, maybe 30, 35 yards maybe from the street to the face of the building where he was. But nonetheless, that's not really enough time. If there are no security guards out here or law enforcement officers who are out here at the time looking for those kind of movement, that kind of activity, then there was really nothing that they could do, because by the time he got inside of that building, it was already too late for the officers to respond. And I tell security officers, law enforcement officers all the time, when you're working in security and you are in a building, the last place you want to stay, the last place you want to be is by a door. Last place you want to be is by a door in the building, because in order to stop a threat, you need perception time to see it, and then you need reaction time. In security, law enforcement, military, we call that the OODA loop, right? You observe what's going on, you orient to where the gunfire, where the problem is, where you need to go, where you need to get cover at, you decide what you're gonna do, and then you take action. So that's the acronym is OODA. Orient, observe, orient, decide, act. If you're standing at a door and somebody comes in with a rifle, by the time you get your hand on your holster, it's already too late. And I'm sure that's what happened right here at 345 Park Avenue when Shane Tamura came into this building with the M4 rifle, hell-bent with the intent to unalive people and to go to the NFL offices and unalive more people. That's what happened. These officers, Officer Al, Big Al, security officer with McLean Security, Officer Islam with the NYPD, this is where they were. They were protecting the home front, but perhaps where they were standing, where they were positioned, where they were posted strategically gave them very little to zero time to react to the threat. And you need that in order to keep yourself safe and to keep people safe. I ran an exercise a few years ago when I ran a security training company. I still run a security training company, but I do it for people in executive security, people who are charged with protecting government officials, who are charged with protecting corporate executives, VIP celebrities, high net worth people. I still have that security training academy, it's called the MVP School of Executive Protection. And we don't train for this type of stuff because those guys that I train are normally not at static positions. But before I started really doubling down on protecting executive security people, I had a training school for security guards, armed security guards, armed security guards, and even private citizens. And one of the things that I would tell these armed security guards, and any security guard, armed or unarmed, never sit at a door. If you go, when you get off here, scroll through my YouTube shorts, I think it was the YouTube shorts, and look for, there's a security guard standing at a door. It's a drill that I did with the security guard in a training class. We had a little store in there, and I told the security guard, this is your post. You stand at this door right here, and I'm gonna come in here and rob it. I'm going to rob the store. You don't know when I'm going to rob it, but I'm going to come in the store. When you think I'm going to rob it, then you go pull your firearm out and do what you have to do. He said, cool. I walked into the store. Our first person I saw was him because he was at the door where I told him to stand at. He was at the door. So I said, hey officer, how you doing? Very cordial, because anybody who walks in to do a crime is not gonna just walk in and start doing a crime. If they're gonna rob the store, they're gonna study the store. They're gonna see if there's security in there, if the security is in there, is he on his cell phone? Is he paying attention? Is he standing right by the door? Is he alert? They're gonna do all of that stuff. So I had him to do that. I came in and asked him a couple of questions where his merchandise was. He pointed over there. I said, okay, thank you. I walked out of that door. I went right out the door. I came right back in, and I had a Friday the 13th Jason mask on, and I put it over my face. And when I came in, I had our training firearm, and he had a training firearm as well. He had a duty belt, all of the stuff that he would need to protect the people in there who were running that store. But when I came in, he knew that I was gonna rob the store, and I had to jump on him because reaction time is slower than action. So reaction is slower than action. So when I came in, I already had my firearm, and I pointed it right at him, and I told him to lay on the floor, and then I told him to give me his gun. And you should see the look on his face. He had a GoPro camera on, I had a GoPro camera on. So if you go watch that video, you'll see what standing at a door will get you as a law enforcement officer or a security officer when you're charged to protect people. Because you have zero reaction time. You have zero reaction time because you have zero observation time or perception time to perceive the threat. So reaction time or final reaction time, overall reaction time is perception plus or perception times reaction. Perception times reaction. Yeah. So when you see it, your reaction, that determines how your life is going to be, or if that's your last day on this planet. So if you're working in security and somebody asks you to stand at a door, I highly recommend you tell them no, thank you. You stand back a distance where you can still see the front of wherever the facility is. If it's an office building, if it's a convenience store, CVS store, you want to be able to see, react, move, get cover, fire, protect people, cover people, but you can't do that standing at a door. So I got a couple of questions. Let me answer these questions. And more people carry bad, people would think twice before pulling these stunts. Yeah, but I think I do agree with you, but I don't think this guy, his intention was to die anyway. He was going to kill himself. He was going to die one way or another. So this wouldn't have stopped that man in this case. Alonzo, welcome. Monte, thank you. I'm going to answer a couple of these questions. Then we're going to jump right into mental health, and I'll be out here for about another 12 minutes. And for you guys who are going to continue watching or follow, make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you do me a favor, hit that like button. Really helps my channel to grow, but it helps me to bring out the real, pure, uncut stories that people aren't giving you, because media has its own spin, and you'll find that now independent journalists are the heartbeat of the news, because we have no spin on it. We have no editor or producer to send it to. We're going to give it to you uncut and raw as we see it, as we hear it, as we feel it, with our boots on the ground. I always say the only way to feel the pace of the march is to have boots on the ground. That's why I'm here in New York City. That's why I'm covering this case. Yes, JC, we are, we are discussing this shooting in New York. We are right here at 345 Park Avenue. A lot of the law enforcement officers are clearing out. We still have a contingency of officers. They're coming down the ramp here now, and you'll see them shortly. I'll get out of the way so you can see them. And then we'll go over there and we'll look at some of the stuff that was, just giving honor to the people who lost their lives here. Even this man here with the cross. Hopefully I can go over there and get a statement from him. Why is he here? Why does he have the cross? What is his feeling? How is he feeling about this? What does he know about it? That's what's going on. So I'm gonna tell you this right here. So one of the facts was that Shane Tamura had a concealed carry permit on his person, even though they didn't mention him having a handgun, because concealed carry permit doesn't allow you to have it's not for a long gun. That falls under your 2A, your Second Amendment. So he could legally carry that, even if somebody saw him walking in or walking down the street. If law enforcement stopped him, he could legally have that firearm. But he had a concealed carry permit from the state of Nevada. And so people wanted to know, how is it that this man has this concealed carry permit for the state of Nevada when it's been reported that he had mental issues, serious mental issues. So they asked, how was it that he was able to be issued? One, he was a security guard in Nevada. Also, they said he was a licensed concealed carry permit holder. Hey sir, how are you? Good, good. You brought this out here for that?
I did.
Good. Can I talk to you for a second?
Let's go.
All right, so I'm gonna talk to this young man here. I will give you the microphone. You're here because of the NFL shooting or the people who lost their lives here?
That's right.
Good. Are you a native New Yorker?
No, sir. I'm from Michigan. I'm just out of Detroit.
Wow, you guys just had a bad incident in Michigan too, out in Travis County at the Walmart.
Yeah, I'm actually heading. I'm heading there from here.
And did you come all the way here just to do this?
Yes, sir.
Did you drive?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
About 10 hours last night. I got in this morning. So.
What's your name, if you don't mind me
My name is Dan. Last name is Beasley.
Okay. Are you a pastor, a minister in the clergy?
No, I'm just a son of God that I take the cross wherever I feel led and wherever God will tell me to go. I was actually just spent a number of days in Texas with the flood victims down there. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing missionary work. You're doing the work of God.
Yes, that's it.
What do you think about this incident?
I mean, this is obviously evil. The guy drives all the way across the country from Nevada to come here and just wreak havoc and carnage on the city. I mean, what is it? The worst shooting in 20-25 years?
This is the 254th shooting, mass shooting.
No, but I mean in New York City. I think
in New York City.
It's the worst one in like 20 or 25
yes,
years.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you got to think about that. All right. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not from New York, right? So I'm just looking from the outside in, right? And you think of that, you look at the size of the city, and this is the worst. And it came from somebody in Nevada. Okay. This is a complete target. I don't believe that anybody in New York would ever even think about doing anything like this. You guys are, it's not the kind of people that you are.
Right.
Yeah. So somebody is demented and filled with rage and filled with the enemy, and he comes here and says he's going to come here and attack you guys. And if it wasn't for the quick responses from the NYPD, I mean, this could have been far worse. I mean, you look at how God stepped in and sends the guy up the wrong elevator. He goes to the NFL office. Guess what? They're all up there working probably till midnight every night trying to get ready for the season, right?
Absolutely.
Man, that place was packed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guy presses the wrong button, right?
Absolutely. Gets on the wrong elevator bank.
Yeah, come on. How's that happen?
Intervention. But, I wish that God intervention in the whole thing.
You know what, though? The Bible says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? And that he roams this earth seeking who he can devour. We have to be honest and understand that he lives among us. The enemy lives among us. That's what the Bible says. And we have to be diligent and have our eyes open that God gave us free will to be able to go out and do. I mean, Cain killed Abel, right?
Yes, he did.
I mean, he gives us the free will to do these things. I mean, we obviously have to pay the price once we do it, but he gave us free will. He can only stop so many things. And he's not going to, he is an all-loving, merciful God, but we have to turn to him in all things. And in this situation, we have no choice but to turn to the cross and focus on the message here, and that'll get us through the healing.
Yes, I totally agree. Because I feel like not only this is, we think back to the Al Murrah building in Oklahoma where they blew that up.
Yes, sir.
And then you think about the mass stabbing in Michigan.
Yes, sir.
And just yesterday, right, a couple hours before this, there was another mass shooting in Reno, Nevada at a casino. Did you know that?
I wasn't aware, no.
Yeah, 8 people shot.
It's hard to keep up, man.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a reflection, like I said, we don't have only international terrorists. We have domestic terrorists right here.
Yeah.
In our own state, and I think it's a reflection of our country, what's going on with the corporate America, what's going on with big pharma, what's going on with government. It all has a play, and I'm praying, I'm hoping that it doesn't get worse.
Well, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that if people turn to this, what I have on my shoulder, don't you think that would shift everything?
Yeah.
That everything will shift. If people just open their hearts and do two things, okay? What the Bible says is love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, right? Okay, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Simple. It's pretty darn simple. If we do those things, everything turns around.
I totally agree. And I'm gonna close with this. I say there are two kind of people in the world. As a person who drives across the country to do something as heinous as this man did here on Monday, and then there's people who, like you, who drive across the country to heal it.
To bring a light into the darkness.
Absolutely.
Amen.
It's been a pleasure meeting you. Can you tell me your name again?
Yeah, Dan Beasley.
Dan Beasley. How
with a Z. With a Z. Beazley. Dan, last name is Beasley. Beazley.
And how can people find you? Your church, your ministry, Facebook?
They can go on, my ministry is called themessageofthecross.net, or they can just FaceTime or hook up with me on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for doing this. It's meaningful. It's heartfelt. I came here. I actually, my office is in D.C. I own a security company. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, but from Washington D.C. But my friends work in this building who were police officers with me in D.C.
Wow.
And when this news broke, I saw the address. I called and started texting immediately. They told me that they were okay. But I felt it was important for me to come here.
Oh, God bless you.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Safe travels to you. All right.
See you soon,
all right, I'll follow you on Facebook.
Okay,
all right.
good,
yes, sir. All right, guys. So this just kind of getting some feedback from people who are out here who also were impacted by this. But certainly, I was impacted. I am impacted by it because again, I have friends here, and I'm just happy that they're safe. My condolences go out to the NYPD, the McLean Security, Etienne's family, Wesley LaPayton's family, the other people who lost their lives here. I'm deeply moved by it, and I'm just wishing them the best. A lot of times after tragedy, people say, well, we're praying for this, we're praying for that. But, you know, a lot of people were praying before the incident as well. And, you know, it's really hard to just really come to grips with that. You know, it's really hard to come to grips with that. So before I close out, I'm going to talk about this last thing, and that is we were talking about before the cross came up. We were talking about how is it, so people were questioning it, that Shane Tamura, however you say his name is, he had a concealed carry permit. So people were asking, with his mental health track record, how was he able to get that permit? So I'm going to tell you how he got that permit. The way that he got that permit is in most states and cities and municipalities that I know, there are 5 to 6 questions that they ask you on the application. They ask you, are you of good moral character? The other question is, are you between 18 and 21, depending on where you are? Some states is 18, some states is 21. You have to be at least 18 or 20 years old. They ask you, are you addicted to drugs? Are you a drug addict? They ask you, are you a habitual alcoholic? The last thing they ask you, one of the last things they ask you about your criminal record. And the very last thing they ask you, do you have any mental issues? And not just mental issues, they don't consider mental issues. You got, you walk around, talk to yourself, any of that good type of stuff. You were diagnosed with schizophrenia. They don't ask you none of that. You can still get a firearm being a schizophrenic. What they want to know is if you were committed to a mental hospital, you are not technically supposed to be able to get a concealed carry permit. Now, I got to give you one more caveat to that, because that's not an end-all, be-all rule. If you were committed to a mental institution, be it an asylum, a mental hospital, anything of that nature, if you were committed to that, but you had a doctor who wrote you a letter and released you from the care of the mental facility and said that you were not a danger to yourself or other people, regardless if you're walking around the streets of New York City, Las Vegas, Maryland, Washington, D.C., wherever you are, if you have been released by a doctor with a certified letter, then you can go to any gun training place. If they require training, take the training, then take intern and apply for a concealed carry license, and the government has to give it to you. And a lot of people do not know that. So maybe that this right here will change things, but then again, you will have a whole other legal challenge on your hand. For there will be people who are challenging, saying, yeah, I had this mental issue, but I'm not a danger to myself. And lawsuits will be filed against the state, the county, the city, which just makes a very, very ugly situation. So this is why Shane Tamura was able to get a concealed carry permit. Nonetheless, the concealed carry permit had nothing to do with what happened here at 345 Park Avenue, where my friends and former colleagues work at, where 5 people, including the shooter, lost their lives on Monday, July 28th at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, JC, that is, thank you for the bid, my brother. I thank you for the comment on my bid, James. Yes, that's a true fact, JC. Look it up. Go to your own state. Look for your concealed carry license. See what the regulations are, and you'll find out that you can be crazy and have a gun. You can be crazy and get a gun and legally carry that gun, which a lot of people find troubling, including myself. But the law is the law, and I can't fight with the law. So before I close out, I'm gonna take a quick jot around here. For you guys who are just logging on, I'm going to show you NYPD has cleared out with the remnants of a few officers here, a few officers there, standing in front of the Bank of America. They're positioned around the block. It was a whole small army of officers here. We can still have vehicles here, officers standing posts. And every chance that I got today, every officer that I saw, I walked up to and I said, I'm sorry for your loss and thank you for your service. Because honestly, we don't give enough credit to the men and women who protect the homeland, especially in these urban cities and the rural parts that make up America, because they are really dealing with some hard challenges, and I only foresee them getting worse as time goes on. So let's just take a quick jaunt around for you guys who haven't seen, who don't know what it looks like out here. So I'm gonna give you a quick jaunt around out here in New York City, where all of this stuff went down. So again, we're here at 51st and Park. 51st and Park, and for you guys who don't know, this is where the shooter pulled up right here, double parked his car, got out right here, and I'm not sure how far I can walk up there, but I don't think they're stopping anybody. But he walked across this platform and he walked into this building through doors right here that are covered up, and he started shooting. And unfortunately, a lot of good people lost their lives here. And so you can see the NYPD is still here, heavy. They'll probably be here until they finish processing the crime scene. NYPD officers are over there. This is New York City, so I'll give you a long shot of the building here at 51st and Park, 345 Park Avenue. Give you a tall shot so you can see what this building looks like here. And you see that barrier around the building that's covering up so people can't see in, because it's still an active crime scene. And the flags here are being flown at half-mast. But as you see, this is a very, very tall building here in New York City. And for you all who haven't seen, how are you? For you all who haven't seen, here's the Blackstone sign. For the Blackstone office, we still have some media here. Hey. No, do your thing.
Thank you.
All right. So I have media here, and here's the memorial. Here, there was a sign over there. I can't show you because I don't want to get into the officers' I don't want to get into the officers, into the journalist camera shot here, but here's the memorial. This is the sympathy and empathy that people will feel for our great NYPD's finest up there, that feel for what's going on here at Park Avenue, 345 Park. Just a sad state of affairs. It's a very sad state of affairs here. Well, it's almost, I don't think that New York has had this level of sadness since the World Trade Center, 1999, or the 2000 World Trade Center bombings. NYPD is here. Beautiful dog, my brother.
Thanks.
Yeah. NYPD is still here at the face of the building. And it's gonna be still an active crime scene, so it's gonna be like this for a while. Hey, my brother, sorry for your loss, thank you for your service. All right, so this whole building is gonna be cordoned off for some time. Crime scene is still doing their thing in there. Officers are still here protecting the face of the building. Officer here, I just thank for his service, a great man, I'm sure. But the officer here, Didarul Islam, is gonna be sorely missed by many, his family, the people that he served in this community, the people that he worked alongside of, and the people here in this building who got used to seeing his face every day. This is just a tragic state of affairs, and I'm gonna show you right now, before I log off, I'm gonna show you the memorial for Officer Big Al ATN, who lost his life here, the security guard. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Trump and Epstein either tomorrow or later on tonight. So this was the makeshift memorial for Officer ETN. This is his flowers that somebody put here. But here's a sign of people who just felt his grief. Officer ATN, his face, 46 years old, working here in this building, lost his life. Officer Didarul Islam, Wesley Paytner, they lost their life here at the building here at 345 Park Avenue. Listen, I thank all of you guys who are on here, who followed me on this journey today to talk about this vital and critical incident. Thank you for staying on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the comments. It means a lot. If you're not following my channel, please subscribe. Hit that like button, subscribe. If you feel moved, please put a comment down below. I'm not even gonna touch that comment. Please leave a comment down below. And how you doing?
All right.
Yeah, trying to conceptualize what's going on.
What's up?
This is this was the shooting at the NFL building the other day.
Yes.
Monday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here there was.
Yeah, it was. So this is why all of this is covered. This is why all of the law enforcement officers are here.
Now it is closed.
Yeah, it's closed. Well, the employees are allowed to go in, but it's still an active crime scene. So that's what they're.
A lot of cops.
Yeah, a lot of cops. It's gonna probably be like that for the rest of the week before they return it back to some kind of normalcy.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. All right, you guys be safe here in New York. So, that's just really the deal here, man. This is we haven't seen New York saddened like this since the 9/11 incident, and hopefully we can recover. We have to move on because, unfortunately, I don't want to sound I don't even know the word for it. I don't want to sound I can't think of the word. What I want to say is, tomorrow there'll be another mass shooting, is for lack of words. So we can't get stuck on this. We have to move on. I plan to be here for the memorial services for both the security guard that I don't know and the NYPD officer, not to cover the story, but to show my support and, to give the family, my condolences personally, even though they don't know me. But being the owner of a security firm and a retired law enforcement officer, I feel like it's my duty to be here to report on this and to send these men off who sacrificed their life in this building for other people. Yeah, that's my purpose for being here. So For you all who had just joined, who just popped in, hello from Kazakhstan. Hey, I love Kazakhstan. Thank you from Kazakhstan. Thank you from signing on all the way from Kazakhstan. So that is it, guys. I'll be back later on tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow I will be reporting on the latest news about Jeffrey Epstein and Trump. I also, while I'm here, I will be going to the MDC Center in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. It's about 15 minutes away from here. That is where Jeffrey Epstein was where he was housed, where he had reportedly committed suicide. But that is not the real story. And people like me, it's going to be independent journalists that get to the bottom of all of that stuff. That's how we're going to get to the bottom, because we have no spin, no producer, no editor. We just give it to you raw with no filter. And so I'm going to be reporting on Trump and Epstein, but I'm also going over to the MDC Center, Brooklyn. You know who's housed there? Sean P. Diddy Combs. Also, Luigi Mangione, who also unalived someone down here in Manhattan. I'm going to be reporting on that tonight or possibly tomorrow. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, follow, super chat, leave comments below, and come back. Make sure you come back for the next video, share it with somebody else. Any questions before I jump off? Any questions? I'll hang on for a second for any questions. If not, I'm gonna jump off. Nope. No questions? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Until the next episode, this is Melvin Key, also known as the Security Czar with the GOAT TV. Stay tuned for my next episode. I'm signing out from 345 Park Avenue. Oh, Bungie, I didn't know you were still on there. Yeah, a lot of people don't ask questions, but I'm glad that they stayed to watch anyway. It's interesting moments in history, and trust me, it's going to get even more interesting. All right, Bunch, I'm out. I'll see you. I'll probably be back on. I may be back on at 10 o'clock for the Luigi thing. Talk to you then.